The Sustainable Water Network, SWAN, assists in fulfilling that vital public participation function that Matt Crowe has referred to, which is required by the Water Framework Directive, WFD, and other water-related policy, by both disseminating the evolving status of the implementation of these instruments in Ireland, as well as collating feedback from numerous stakeholders. We have a solemn duty to faithfully convey these opinions and concerns from contributors to ensure that their voices are heard and are present at the table. The value of clean, healthy waters is clear, and even more so as we enter a time of uncertain rainfall and other influences induced by climate change. Absolutely everything depends upon our achieving high-status waters, from the health of our people to our stewardship of biodiversity, and extending to the value of our agricultural produce. So that's just by way of introduction, and I'm now going to defer to my colleague, SWAN Coordinator Sinéad O'Brien, to brief you on the deeply considered SWAN assessment of the current draft RBMP, which you will have otherwise received in full in separate correspondence. Thank you so much. Sinead?
Thanks, Mark, and thank you, Chair. I'd first like to make a few introductory remarks about the current state of our water, and I'm then going to present a synopsis of the 6 key issues that SWAN have identified. A little like the National Water Forum, we have a lot of issues, but we have just selected our top issues to present to you here today. So despite the impression of Ireland as clean and green globally, more than half of our rivers and lakes and estuaries are unhealthy currently. That means they're failing Water Framework Directive status. Nitrate and phosphate pollution is at an unsatisfactory level and is increased significantly since 2013. And we have lost a shocking 96% of our most pristine rivers in the last 30 years. And then in addition, more recently, an interim assessment of the previous River Basin Management Plan in that report itself revealed that only 2 out of the 10 expected outcomes of that plan have been achieved. So while SWAN very much commends the work of the department officials in the Water Advisory Unit, staff in the Local Authority Waters Programme and in the excellent EPA Catchment Unit, we believe that all of this good work has been negated by conflicting policy in other areas, in particular lack of investment and unsustainable land use, which is driving nutrients to levels that are unsustainable for the environment and to the detriment of Ireland and its people ultimately. So now I'd like to just give you a quick flavour of what our key issues are, and some of these are shared with the National Water Forum. So the first one is the lack of ambition and specific actions in the plan. Our first concern and our overarching message to you today would be that there is a lack of ambition in the plan and it falls so short of what's required. It lacks targeted actions to bring all of our water bodies up to good status, which is required by the Water Framework Directive, and just isn't a coherent response to the directive. And it's also not in line with the programme for government commitment on that directive. The continuing decline in water quality demonstrates that the current policy just isn't working. So that leads to our first recommendation, which is that the ambition of the plan must be in line with the directive, and it must include a full set of targeted specific measures necessary to bring every water body up to good status by 2027 as required by the directive. If we are to avoid the opprobrium of the EU and indeed our very own citizens. The second issue we'd like to draw your attention to is water governance. And despite some new administrative structures that we might discuss later, water management remains very fragmented and opaque, and there's no central body or agency responsible for implementation of the last plan or indeed of this plan. This was also highlighted by the Institute of Public Administration in a review last year. So our recommendation in this regard is that we need to establish an